Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. So what if I asked you this question? What happens when you add a cell activator to the paint but you don't swipe? You do a completely different technique. Well, that's my question today that I'm going to explore. I've got a colour palette. I'm going to show you the colour palette in a minute, but I'm going to use that colour palette with a cell activator and blow the paint out across the canvas. So when I do lacing and cells, I use a cell activator when I'm swiping. I do create cells naturally when I'm just using a paint and water combination, when I'm blowing out as a Dutch pour, because of the different densities of the paint create different kind of reactions. So that's how the density of the paint makes that cell or lacing effect naturally with just paint and water. But what if I had just paint and water as my colours and then added a cell activator to that combination? Would the lacing be any different? Would the cells even appear? Well, that's the experiment today and I can't wait to show you the results. So let's get on. I'll talk about the consistencies, the ratios and everything in the description box. But I'm just so excited that you're here with me. So let's see what we can create. So let me take you in just so you can see the colour palette that I'm using today. It's very autumnal, very autumn inspired, but I'm using a different range of paints from Amsterdam, Winsor & Newton and Pebeo. I will list all of those paint brands and the actual colours in the description box, but just so you can see here, these are the colours that I'm going to use today. So they're my colours. I'll show you the consistency shortly. I'm also using a white cell activator. So titanium white mixed with Australian Floetrol. So that's my colour. Let me show you the consistencies. I've mixed these up before. I've used them for a previous creation. You can just see the consistency here. Just trickles off the spatula into the paint and disappears. Same with all of these colours. So there we go. I haven't prepared my canvas in any other way. I normally just paint the edges, but today I'm not doing that. I'm just going to see how it turns out. So I've got my colours here. My paints are mixed up. Let's go. So all I'm going to do is take one colour at a time and just pour the paint onto the canvas in a random order and a random location. I really want this to almost be like a chaos Dutch pour where I'm mixing all those colours together. So one colour at a time and just covering that surface area. So instead of swiping and controlling where I place that activator, I'm literally going to take some of that activator and pour it onto the canvas. The cell activator itself is a combination of paint and Floetrol. It's Amsterdam's titanium white mixed with Australian Floetrol. 1 part paint to 4 parts Floetrol, and that's the activator. So I'm just going to use my torch now to pop any air bubbles, and then I'm going to take my blow dryer and just blow the paint in different directions. I want to really cover the full surface area, but what I do want to see is whether that cell activator that I've drizzled on that paint creates any cells or lacing. So remember, the paints themselves are 1 part paint to 1 part water, and then that white that you can see is the cell activator. That's what I've drizzled on top, and that was 1 part paint to 4 parts Australian Floetrol. My blow dryer is on a cool setting and the lowest blow speed, so I'm now just going to take some time to blow that paint across the canvas down the sides and over the edges, just to give 100% coverage of the canvas. So at this point, I've got to be honest, I'm not seeing much cell reaction or any lacing being formed by the way that I'm doing this. So if I wanted more lacing, I would prefer to do a swipe. I can create cells with just paint and water when I use the blow dryer. That's because I normally use different brands and always a couple of metallics to create those cells. I find metallic paints always have a different density to the paints that I use. I can see a little bit of cell and lacing formation, but not a huge amount based on the amount of cell activator that I placed on the canvas. But even so, I actually really love how these colours are infusing and working together. This one really does speak autumn to me, and I can't wait to take you in for a closer look, not just to see the areas where those cells are formed, but how those colours and that colour palette are really working well together. This is going to be a new favourite of mine, and I definitely want to use this colour palette again. I'm going to finish off blowing with my hairdryer, and then I'm going to take you in for a closer look at both the wet version and the dry version. You'll see that I keep going down just to have a look at eye level on the canvas. That's because I don't want massive puddles of paint in certain areas. If I have puddles of paint in areas without making sure that it's a consistent coverage, then that's going to really affect the drying process. Different parts of the canvas will dry at different rates, and that's when you might get some cracking. I'm happy with this. I'm going to use my torch just to pop any air bubbles and see if I can get any more cell reaction, and then I'm going to take you in now for a close-up. So here we go, here's the wet version. I just love those colours, and we've got little areas like this one here where there's some cells. But I do wonder whether they would have been created naturally with just the paint and water anyway, because I did use a metallic, I used a copper within this. So I love that one just there, I just love that little section just there. It's actually quite mesmerising. I think having this kind of colour palette, you look at it once and yeah, you can see what you can see. But then when you take some time just to go in and see all those different areas like that one there, and how all those paints have infused and kind of gone in as one and created that palette, this really does say autumn to me, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with the dry version. I will take you in now for a close-up of the dry version, but a big thank you to each and every one of you for joining me today. Thank you for all of your ongoing support. It really means the world to me. And whatever you're up to creatively, I hope it's going well. And if not, don't be too hard on yourself. Remember, when we're going through that creation process, enjoy that process, enjoy being in that moment, and enjoy learning. I think we can learn a lot from all those creations that we make, even when they don't always go according to plan. I hope you have a great week ahead. Take care of yourselves, and I really hope I get to see you again in the next video. See you soon, everyone. Bye.